All right, everyone. Welcome to this weekend Sidereal Astrology forecast. This is for April 14th, 15th, and 16th, 2017. So a lot going on this weekend, as there was last weekend. Very impactful one. We've got the Sun conjoining up to Uranus still on Friday, which was an energy we were feeling on Thursday, which is maybe wanting a bit of freedom in our life. And usually with the Sun, this is freedom of our self-expression. So some of us might be trying new things still on Friday, maybe with the routine or just new ways of having fun, new ways of expressing ourselves. And again, with all of that in Pisces, I think it's most fundamentally about connecting to that peace, ultimately finding that peace within, and that being tremendously liberating. So on Friday, though, the moon will still be in Libra the first half of the day, and then shifting into Scorpio the second half. So we do have a bit of a deep weekend emotionally. We'll have the moon in Scorpio and Ophiuchus on Saturday and a little bit into Sunday as well. So a great weekend for getting into that depth, openness with ourself, vulnerability with ourself and with life. And that can translate into really connecting to what matters most and, the core of life and, just the real raw truth of the matter. So on Saturday, very important, we do have Venus going station direct after her seemingly very long retrograde since March 4th. So things regarding relationships are starting to shift. If you felt like you've been rethinking some things or they've been sort of on the back burner in some way since early March, that's all starting to shift. Now that Venus has been squaring up to Saturn, so it has been, particularly this last week, the importance of being perhaps responsible or patient with the whole relationship sector. And so those sort of lessons or experiences are starting to shift. And I think we're integrating, the importance of having discipline and patience with those relationships. Now, Venus is also our values. So we'll talk about that. Maybe it's financial for some of you. Maybe it's more about, cosmetics or things like that. And Sunday, that Venus then sextiles up to Mars, which does mean there is a bit of flow with whatever this is shifting with relationships and our values. All right, so let's go ahead and break this down one by one throughout the weekend when we return. All right, so let's look at Friday first. So Friday's sort of like a continuation of Thursday in that the moon will be in Libra the first half, making it really good for anything that requires harmony in our life. Libra is the part of us that wants to strive for balance, harmony, and if it's in relationships, perhaps cooperation, wanting to work with others, but just wanting things to be on that even keel. Now, along with that Thursday energy, the Sun over Uranus does suggest that there is this new chapter now, this new yearly cycle about freedom. So this is going to manifest differently for all of you, but generally with the Sun, it's whatever we're focused on. Okay, so for some of us, it's passions, interests, having a bit of fun maybe in the daily routine. Others, maybe it's trying new things creatively, maybe with work projects, things of that nature. And fundamentally, I think just expressing ourselves in new ways or expressing ourselves in a way that is more in alignment with what we're truly about, which is essentially what Uranus has been and always does help us cultivate. But in Pisces, Uranus has been helping us cultivate the freedom of letting go and then through that accessing who we truly are, right? That our true self is found through surrender, through letting go. And that can be a very freeing thing, a very peaceful thing, and a very expressive thing. There can be that. But again, it's water, so it's more intuitive. Whereas if this conjunction was in like Aries or Leo or something, it'd be much more externalized. But it's internal, but there's a feeling here of this freedom, this liberation of self-expression, trying new things, and being who we truly are. So that's Friday. Then as we go into the... let me go to this chart. As we go into the second half of Friday, the moon is going to go into Scorpio. So this is where we get into the deeper side of the weekend. And I think it is a very positive weekend collectively. I think there's a lot of positive things shifting. But the moon doesn't particularly like to be in Scorpio and Ophiuchus. So when it comes to our feelings, there might be a bit of that exposing feeling. Things get brought to the surface in terms of stuff that maybe we've hidden away or brushed under the rug, that now it's the time of accepting that. But the more willing we are to accept these deeper dimensions of life and these feelings and whatnot, the more open we are there with our own personal inner being, this is a very positive thing. And through that, there's a lot of this, again, deeper connecting to what matters most, and even transformation and healing, within ourselves. And that, of course, can be a very freeing thing in and of itself as well. All right, so the moon will be in Scorpio and Ophiuchus going into Saturday also. I think maybe the later part of Saturday and going into Sunday being more about the healing side of it with Ophiuchus. Again, acceptance really is key. But with all of this shifting, Venus is going station direct in Pisces, where she's exalted. So we've learned a lot over the past month and a half regarding relationships in some capacity. Some sort of perspective is now starting to shift. And the shift is essentially implementing everything that we have learned or reconsidered, or maybe just kind of put on the back burner over the past month and a half. So it makes it an excellent weekend to sort of be aware of the shifts. It's still early. I think, relationship stuff will probably start to move forward a little bit more going into next week, but there is this shift. And I think being aware of that there's a perspective changing about relationships is the key. And I think a big perspective about it has been, at least recently, that Venus has been squaring up to Saturn. And Saturn is the part of ourselves that wants to do things responsibly, patiently, for the long term, right? And in relationships, maybe wanting a bit of that longer term connection versus the immediate connection. The grounded, real, right? With Saturn and Ophiuchus, raw and vulnerable aspects of relationships based on truth and honesty and all of this, just based on, what we truly value. And so they're not superficial, they're real, so they're grounded and long term. So whatever that's been for you, and for others, maybe it's more about responsibility in relationships or commitments in relationships, but essentially this grounded energy, this importance of having groundedness in relationships is the key here. And I think that's what's shifting. And so now we can be implementing a lot of what we learned about this side to it most recently, but generally about relationships the past month and a half. And so if there has been anything that you've learned or anything that you've put on the back burner or that you're redoing or rethinking, I think all of that starts to get integrated as we go into next week. Now, Venus is also the planet of values in the sense of finances. So for some of us, there's a shift there financially this weekend. Again, with Saturn, maybe about the grounded, responsible aspects of that. Venus is also about beauty, right? So if there's been anything cosmetic or with your looks or something like that, or even art for some of you that has been reworked, that's also shifting direct as well. Now, mind you, this whole Chiron energy is that there's healing taking place with our ability to connect to the people and things we enjoy. Okay, so I think with this direct, there is this sense of rejuvenation, of feeling healed with those Venusian things. And I think a lot of that will probably start to feel on Sunday, because on Sunday, we have Venus in very good aspect to Mars. It's only a minor aspect, it's a sextile, but it's certainly an opening. And Mars will be sextiling Chiron as well. So I think talking about that healing first, we could be feeling perhaps a bit healed with our confidence on Sunday. Maybe feeling a bit rejuvenated there, right? With our ability to be direct, pursue the things we want in life. And I think a lot of that might have to do with relationships, with Venus sextiling Mars. I think there can be a lot of passion in relationships, or at least, again, just an opening for that. We can feel quite direct and, again, confident perhaps in those relationships. And when we're getting things done, probably in a much more receptive way, willing to cooperate with others, willing to see others' perspectives. But this is, a combination of the yin, the yang, the masculine, the feminine. And so that's what creates this sort of alchemical combination of passion, just a bit of interest and just this this undercurrent to a bit of electricity perhaps in relationships. So that could be good romantically, but just in general in relationships, just having a bit of flow and connection. And again, that can be a very healing thing on Sunday. All right, so Sunday, yes, healing. The moon will be in Ophiuchus the first half, but as we go into the second half, into the evening time, we do have the moon shifting into Sagittarius. So this will be setting the stage for early next week, which is essentially the part of the sky which is about transformation. All right, we have the moon going over the galactic center this Sunday evening for most of us, Monday morning for others. And then as we go into next week, probably feeling a bit more expansive, open-minded, and probably wanting a bit of adventure in our life. And usually because of whatever this healing was, whatever this deeper connection was, this truth that became aware to us during the moon in Ophiuchus and Scorpio, which I think is symbolic for this weekend. All right, so that is the weekend in a nutshell. I would say, just to sum this up, Friday, certainly good for shifting into the deeper side of things the second half, but seeing where you can have a bit of freedom of self-expression. Then on Saturday, things shifting with relationships, with values, resources, things like that. And I think a theme about it is how we can integrate. And even going into Sunday, how to integrate the patience and responsible approach and long-term approach to these values and people we value in our lives, and just relationships in general, how we connect. All right, and then as we get into Sunday, some easy aspects, maybe a bit of healing with that confidence and assertive nature of ours with Mars sextile Chiron, but then a bit of flow with relationships, a bit of healthy tension, a bit of energy, right, with that, and even depth and openness, because Mars is naturally associated with Scorpio and Ophiuchus. All right, and I do want to mention too, the moon will be in a minor square up to Venus, so there might be an emotional integration. So just take it slow with whatever these shifts are with the relationships and values on Sunday. It might be suggesting some sort of integration with that. But again, we are in the disseminating phase, so there is a lot of support, a lot of flow just generally coming off of that full moon from last week. A lot of awareness and flow. All right, so hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Thank you again for all of your support, and for those of you sharing the word about Sidereal Astrology. But let me know if you have any questions in the comment section, and I will see you all on Monday. Take care.